After I collapsed at work, Dad called me and asked if the $2,500 allowance was enough. What allowance? I said. He went dead silent. Turns out Mom had been sending it to my brother for his modded car and gaming rig. All right, Reddit. I know the title might be messy, but that's what happened. My mom had been stealing my monthly allowance for 6 months to bankroll my brother's lifestyle, while I worked 3 jobs until I collapsed face first into a stack of dirty dishes. Real subtle. I would not recommend. I'm Elias, 24 male, second-year med student at Northwestern in Chicago. Moved here from Phoenix about 18 months ago, chasing the dream of becoming a trauma surgeon like my dad. He works at a major hospital back in Arizona, pulling in good money, and growing up, we lived a comfortable life. Money was never something we worried about. Then, I moved to Chicago, and suddenly I was drowning. My parents covered tuition, which is huge since Northwestern isn't cheap, but everything else was supposedly on me. Rent in a crappy studio apartment in a sketchy neighborhood, food, books, transportation, all of it. And Chicago doesn't mess around with cost of living. So I started hustling, tutoring undergrads who couldn't be bothered to study, working as a line cook at a sports bar 4 nights a week, picking up weekend shifts at a medical supply warehouse. Sometimes I'd work from 6 a.m. to past midnight, catch 4 hours of sleep, then drag myself to an 8 a.m. anatomy lecture. The exhaustion was crushing. I'd fall asleep during classes, wake up with a drool on my notebook, and no idea what I'd missed. My grades were sliding from A's to C's. I was eating maybe 1 real meal a day, filling the gaps with gas station coffee and whatever cheap carbs I could afford. Living the dream, baby. My friends noticed I was falling apart. One of them, Derek, cornered me after class one day and straight up asked if I was okay. I brushed him off, said I was handling it, just needed to grind through the semester. But I wasn't handling anything. I was barely surviving. Meanwhile, my brother Lucas, 23 years old and supposedly enrolled in some business program at USC, was living like a trust fund kid in Los Angeles. I'd see his Instagram posts. New gaming setup with 3 curved monitors and a custom PC that probably cost $5,000. Posting videos of his Dodge Challenger with fresh modifications, carbon fiber hood, custom exhaust, upgraded suspension. Every few weeks there'd be another post showing off some new piece of gear or another upgrade to his car. I wasn't jealous exactly, more confused. How was Lucas affording all that on a student budget while I was eating ketchup packets for lunch? Yeah, he wasn't. I'd asked my mom for help a few times. Just a couple $100 a month to ease the pressure. She'd shut me down every time. Said Dad's hospital had reduced his hours, money was tight, they were barely covering our tuitions. I believed her because why wouldn't I? She's my mom. So I kept grinding. Picked up a 3rd job doing overnight inventory at a pharmacy. That's when things got bad. It was a Tuesday night at the sports bar, middle of dinner rush. We were slammed. Orders backing up, tickets printing faster than we could cook, servers yelling for food. I was working the grill station, flipping burgers with one hand and checking tickets with the other. The kitchen was hot as heck, probably pushing 95 degrees. I'd been there since 4 p.m. after a full day of classes. Before that, I'd worked the warehouse shift from 6 a.m. to noon. I was plating an order when the room started tilting. I tried to grab the counter, but my legs just quit. Next thing I remember is the head chef's face hovering over me, asking if I could hear him. Then paramedics. Then fluorescent hospital lights. The ER doctor told me I'd collapsed from severe exhaustion and acute malnutrition. Said my blood work looked like someone who'd been living in a famine zone. They pumped me full of IV fluids and made me eat a hospital sandwich before they'd let me leave. The bill was $1,200 that I absolutely did not have. My manager at the bar called the next day. Said he'd been the one to call 911 and that he'd also called my parents since I had them listed as my emergency contact. Then he told me to take the next 2 weeks off because I was clearly running myself into the ground, and he didn't need the liability. Great. 2 weeks without income from my highest-paying job. Derek showed up at my apartment that night with groceries and refused to leave until I ate something real. While I was eating the pasta he'd made, he started asking questions about my financial situation. When I explained that I wasn't getting any help from home, he looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Dude, your dad's a surgeon. Why aren't they helping you? Mom says money's tight. Tight enough that your brother can afford a custom gaming rig and a modded-out Challenger? And that's when something clicked. Derek pulled up Lucas's Instagram, and we started going through his posts from the past 6 months. The gaming setup, the car mods, the expensive dinners at trendy LA restaurants, the VIP section at clubs, a weekend trip to Vegas with his buddies. Derek did some quick math based on what he could see. Dude, Your brother's burned through at least 30 or 40 grand in the last 6 months. Probably more. Where's he getting that kind of money? I didn't have an answer, but I was darn sure going to find out. Turns out, when you follow the money trail, sometimes it leads straight to your own family robbing you blind. Fun times ahead. I started with Lucas directly. Called him up acting casual, asked how he was affording everything. He got defensive immediately, said it was none of my business, and that mom helped him out sometimes. When I pushed, he hung up on me. Real mature. So I called Dad at work. He was on rounds but called me back during his break, concerned because Mom had told him about my collapse. Are you doing okay, son? Your mother said you fainted at work. Yeah, I'm fine. Just been working a lot. Son, why? Is the monthly $2,500 not enough? I froze. What are you talking about? Silence. Long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Elias, I've been transferring $2,500 into your account every month since you started school. Your monthly allowance. My stomach dropped. What allowance? Dad, I haven't received anything. Not a single deposit. What the heck do you mean you haven't been receiving it? More silence. Then his voice came back. Different. Cold. I need to go. Don't say anything to your mother yet. I'm flying up this weekend. He hung up, and I sat there in my crappy apartment, doing the math. $2,500 a month for 18 months. That's $45,000. Money that was supposed to keep me fed and housed and focused on school. Money that had just disappeared. I spent the next 3 days digging. Checked my bank account history going back 2 years. Nothing. Not a single deposit from my parents, except for random small amounts here and there that I'd asked for. Derek helped me create a detailed timeline of Lucas's purchases based on his social media. Gaming PC in March, first car mod in April, new exhaust system in May, custom wheels in June, full suspension upgrade in August, a $3,000 gaming chair in September. We screenshot everything, saved it all to Google Drive. Then Derek said something. If your dad's been sending money and you haven't gotten it, that means someone's been intercepting it. That's not just lying, man. That's fraud. That's like a felony. I'd been thinking of this as family drama, favoritism, bad parenting. But Derek was right. This was theft. That Friday, Dad flew into Chicago without telling Mom. Showed up at my apartment at 8 p.m. looking like he'd aged 5 years since I'd last seen him. Show me everything, he said. If you've ever wanted to watch a surgeon methodically dissect a crime scene, let me tell you, it's exactly as intense as it sounds. Dad sat at my tiny kitchen table studying printouts like he was reading x-rays, bank statements showing zero deposits, screenshots of Lucas's Instagram posts with dates and estimated costs, the timeline Derek and I had built. Your mother handles all our household finances, Dad said quietly. I transfer my paycheck into our joint account, and she manages everything from there. Bills, your tuitions, day-to-day expenses. I trusted her. I've been transferring your living allowance to an account I thought was yours. She set it up, gave me the account number, told me it was linked to your checking account. So, where's the money actually going? We'll find out. Dad spent the night on my couch, and the next morning we went to his bank. He had them pull records for every transfer he'd made to my supposed account. There it was in black and white. $2,500 every month for 18 months, plus an initial deposit of $5,000 when I'd first moved to Chicago. Total, $50,000. 50 grand. My brother had burned through $50,000 of my money on a gaming chair and car parts. The account number didn't match mine, not even close. The banker confirmed the transfers had gone through successfully to the account number on file, but couldn't disclose who actually owned the account without proper legal paperwork, privacy laws or whatever. You'll need a court order, she said. If you suspect fraud, file a police report. We left the bank with printed records of every transfer. Dad called his lawyer from the parking lot. Then we spent the afternoon at the police station. He filed a detailed report. Suspected financial fraud, unauthorized diversion of funds, possible identity theft. The detective said it was straightforward enough and that they'd freeze the account while investigating. A week later, the court order came back. The account was jointly held by Diane Thornton and Lucas Thornton, both with full access. My mother and brother, working together, for 18 months. The frozen account had $11,247 in it. The rest, nearly $40,000, had already been spent. On what, you ask? Gaming equipment and making Lucas's Challenger look like it belonged to a Fast and Furious extra. Money well spent, clearly. Dad stood up fast. He pulled records for every account he shared with Mom. Credit cards, savings, investment accounts, everything. He found more problems immediately. Cash advances from their credit cards, totaling another $15,000 over the past year. Withdrawals from their savings that Dad hadn't authorized. She's been siphoning funds from multiple sources, Dad said. This isn't just your living expenses. She's been stealing from our retirement accounts. We ordered food that night and kept working. Dad called a lawyer friend back in Phoenix, explained the situation. The lawyer was blunt. What Mom had done was financial fraud, identity theft, and potentially elder abuse since she'd forged Dad's signature on several withdrawal forms. I want her to know that option's on the table, Dad said. Sunday morning, Dad called Mom and told her we were both flying home to Phoenix that afternoon for a family meeting. She tried to protest. Dad cut her off. This isn't optional, Diane. We'll be there by 6 p.m. Have Lucas there too. Nothing says quality family time like an ambush with legal documents and a side of existential dread. We landed in Phoenix at 5:30 p.m. Lucas's Challenger was in the driveway. Mom opened the door looking nervous. Michael, Elias, this is unexpected. Where's Lucas? Dad's voice was flat. In his room. Michael, what's this about? Get him. Living room. Now. She hurried upstairs and came back with Lucas, who looked annoyed at being interrupted. He had the audacity to be wearing a $200 gaming headset around his neck. We sat. Dad opened his folder and pulled out bank statements. Diane, do you know what account number this is? Mom glanced at the paper, and something flickered across her face. I'm not sure. Why? It's the account you told me was Elias's living expense account. Dad's voice was calm, precise. Except it's not Elias's account, is it? It's a joint account held by you and Lucas. Would you like to explain why Elias's living expenses have been going into Lucas's account instead? Lucas shifted in his seat. Dad continued. $50,000, Diane. Where did it go? Lucas spoke up, trying for casual. Look, Mom said you'd approved. Don't. Dad's voice was sharp. Don't lie to me! He pulled out his phone and started scrolling through screenshots. Custom gaming PC, carbon fiber hood, custom exhaust, suspension upgrade, custom wheels, gaming chair. That's over 20 grand right there, and that's just what he posted publicly. Lucas has needs too, Mom said defensive. He's building a career in business. He needs to present a certain image. He's 23 years old playing video games and modding his car, Dad interrupted. While his brother was working 3 jobs and collapsed from malnutrition. Elias passed out at work, Diane. The ER doctor said he looked like a famine victim. Lucas looked uncomfortable. Mom looked like she was the victim here. Because of course she did. You've always favored Elias, she shot back. Lucas needed support too. So you stole it from Elias? From our retirement accounts? Yes, Diane. I found those withdrawals too. $15,000 in unauthorized cash advances. Another $20,000 from our savings. Dad leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. Tomorrow morning, you and I are closing that fraudulent account. Every remaining dollar goes to Elias's actual account. You're being removed from all our joint accounts. And Lucas's access to family money ends today. Completely. You can't do that! Lucas stood up. That's my money! It's money stolen from your brother while he was starving. Sit down. Lucas sat. We're also having a conversation with a lawyer, Dad continued. Because you're looking at serious charges, Diane. Mom's face went white. You wouldn't. Try me. The next morning, Dad and I went to the bank while Mom stayed home. The bank manager confirmed what we already knew and explained the account would remain frozen during the fraud investigation. Back at the house, Mom had apparently decided her best defense was a good offense. We walked in to find her on the phone, crying to someone about how Dad was financially abusing her. Dad waited until she hung up. Who was that? My sister. Someone who actually cares about what happens to me. Here's the situation, Dad continued. I've frozen the fraudulent account. I've removed you from our joint checking and savings. You'll have access to one credit card with a $500 monthly limit for essentials. The mortgage is paid. Utilities are handled. You're not being left destitute. But your free access to family money is over. This is controlling behavior. You can't do this. I can and I am. You committed fraud. You stole from our son. Dad pulled out his phone. I have a lawyer on retainer. He's drafting divorce papers. You'll be served within the week. Mom's face crumpled. The tears looked fake. Divorce papers? Michael, have you lost your mind? You're throwing away 25 years of marriage over a misunderstanding? I spoke up. Mom, I collapsed at work because I hadn't eaten a real meal in 3 days. I was working 3 jobs, sleeping 4 hours a night. My grades were failing. While you were sending my money to Lucas for gaming equipment. That's not a misunderstanding. She turned on me, all pretense gone. You were always fine. You're smart, capable. Lucas needed help. He's not like you, Elias. Lucas is not a kid. He should have been helping himself. The gaming equipment helps him network with people in the business community. He plays Fortnite, Mom. He's not networking with business people. The car modifications are an investment. In business, appearance... Enough, Dad interrupted her. This conversation is over. I'm filing for divorce. Elias is getting every dollar that was stolen from him, with interest. And Lucas's trust distributions are being suspended indefinitely. That got her attention. You can't touch his trust fund. I will not let you. I control distributions until he turns 30. The trust allows me to withhold payments for financial irresponsibility or illegal activity. Lucas has done both. Lucas's trust was worth about $180,000, set up by our grandparents. Mine was the same. Dad couldn't take the principal, but he could absolutely refuse distributions and deduct what Lucas owed from future payouts. You're a monster, Mom hissed. No, Diane. I'm a father protecting his son from his own mother. I stayed in Phoenix for 3 more days, while Dad got everything in order legally. The divorce papers were filed. Lucas tried calling me twice. I let it go to voicemail both times. The first message was angry, saying I was ruining his life by telling Dad lies. The second one was whiny, asking me to fix this because his credit cards weren't working. I flew back to Chicago with $11,247 in my bank account and a promise from Dad that he'd send my living expenses directly from now on. Plus, he'd paid my rent 3 months in advance and dropped $2,000 in my account as an apology. For the first time in months, I could breathe. I quit the warehouse job and cut back my bar shifts to just 2 nights a week. Kept the tutoring because I actually enjoyed it. Suddenly, I had time to study, to sleep, to eat real food. My professors noticed the difference immediately. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. You know what toxic people hate more than consequences? Actually facing those consequences. I should have known Mom and Lucas wouldn't just accept consequences and move on. That's not how toxic people work. They double down. 3 weeks after the confrontation, weird things started happening. Someone tried to access my student account at Northwestern. The IT department caught it because the login attempt came from LA, Lucas's location. They flagged it and locked my account. Then my landlord called saying someone had contacted him, claiming to be from my family, saying I'd been hospitalized and wouldn't be able to pay rent, asking if they could work out a payment plan where they'd take over my lease. My landlord told them to pound sand but gave me a heads up. Derek suggested I check my credit report. Good call. Someone had tried to open a credit card in my name using my social security number. Application was denied because the address didn't match, but the attempt was there, filed in LA, with Lucas's zip code. Dude, your brother's trying to steal your identity, Derek said. This is beyond family drama. I called Dad immediately. He was not surprised. Your mother's been calling me daily trying to negotiate. Says Lucas is having trouble finding work. Yesterday she threatened to sue me for spousal support. Can she do that? She can try. But given the documented fraud, she won't get far. He paused. Elias, I think they're going to escalate. Watch your back. He was right. 2 days later, Northwestern's financial aid office called me in. The administrator looked uncomfortable. Mr. Thornton, we received a concerning call regarding your enrollment status. We need to verify some information. Can you confirm your current enrollment and that you're not currently hospitalized? I'm not hospitalized. I'm standing right here. What's going on? She hesitated. Someone contacted us claiming to be a family member with information about your status. Based on your verification today, we've noted that the information was inaccurate. We'll be flagging your account to prevent future unauthorized contacts. Mom was trying to sabotage my education. Nothing says good parenting like trying to torpedo your kid's medical school career. I documented everything, kept records of every suspicious contact, every attempted access, every weird call. Derek suggested I file a police report for the identity theft attempt. The Chicago PD took my report and assigned it a case number. Then things went nuclear. I got a call from an unknown number. Female voice, professional. Is this Elias Thornton? I'm calling from Credit Solutions regarding your outstanding debt of $8,400 from... I don't have any outstanding debts. Our records show you opened an account with AutoZone in Los Angeles 3 months ago and haven't made any payments. I've never opened an account with AutoZone. I don't even live in Los Angeles. Someone using my name and SSN had opened a credit account at AutoZone in LA and charged $8,400 worth of car parts. Never made a single payment. The account defaulted and went to collections. $8,000 in car parts. Lucas really went all in on that challenger. I'm a victim of identity theft, I told her. My brother stole my information, I've already filed a police report. I spent the next 3 hours filing documentation, filed an identity theft report with the FTC, called the Chicago detective, and added the AutoZone fraud to my police report. With both documents, I contacted AutoZone's fraud department. 2 weeks later, they confirmed the account was fraudulent, closed it, and removed all charges from my credit report. The debt was written off, but Lucas had his car parts. I called Dad. Then I called his lawyer. This is escalating, the lawyer said. Your brother's committing multiple crimes. Identity theft, credit fraud, attempted fraud on the Northwestern account. Your mother's potentially an accomplice. We need to consider pressing charges. Will that actually work? The evidence is substantial. The AutoZone account alone is a serious crime with clear paper trail. Combined with the previous financial fraud, a prosecutor would love this case. Dad flew to Chicago that weekend with his lawyer, Andrew Lopez. We met in Andrew's downtown office. Here's the situation, Andrew said, spreading documents across his conference table. You have multiple federal criminal violations. The evidence is well documented. What are our options? Dad asked. Federal prosecution is viable. What I recommend is a deferred prosecution agreement. We present all the evidence to the prosecutor. They agree the case is solid, but instead of filing charges immediately, they hold them over the defendants' heads. We set up conditions, paying back all the money, no contact orders, counseling. If they comply, the charges stay pending but unfiled. If they violate even once, the prosecutor files immediately. Is that enforceable? I asked. Absolutely. Prosecutors use these all the time for fraud cases. It clears their caseload, victims get made whole, and they keep the hammer hanging. Your mother and brother would have to sign and the prosecutor approves it. Any violation means charges get filed and they proceed to trial. Dad nodded. That gives us leverage. Exactly. Time to turn those family photos into evidence exhibits. Thanksgiving's going to be weird this year. Andrew didn't mess around. Within a week, he'd compiled everything needed to show prosecutors this was solid. The complaint listed 4 main charges: identity theft for using my information, wire fraud for the electronic transfer scheme, credit card fraud for the AutoZone account, and conspiracy. Andrew explained, if prosecuted and convicted, Lucas is looking at potentially 2 to 5 years on the identity theft alone. Your mother would likely face lighter sentencing as an accomplice, maybe probation or up to 2 years. But we're not going for prosecution. We're going for compliance. He pulled out the draft agreement. 20 pages long, single-spaced, dense legal language. I've already reached out to the U.S. Attorney's Office with an overview. They're interested. We present the full criminal complaint with all evidence. The prosecutor reviews and agrees prosecution would work. Then, instead of filing, they approve an agreement with specific conditions. Andrew laid out the terms. Full repayment of $78,600, covering stolen living expenses, the AutoZone fraud, unauthorized credit card advances, plus legal fees and interest. Payment plan of $3,000 per month over 26 months. Miss a payment? Charges get filed immediately. Both Lucas and Mom had to sign a court-enforced no-contact agreement for 3 years. Any contact with me, direct or indirect, would trigger immediate filing. Both had to complete court-ordered counseling within 6 months and check in monthly with a court officer. Beautiful. The best part, Andrew continued, is that it's not a plea deal. They're acknowledging the evidence supports prosecution. The charges are approved by the prosecutor and held pending for the entire compliance period. If they complete all terms, charges can be dismissed after 3 to 5 years. But any violation means the prosecutor files immediately. So, we have leverage for at least 5 years, I said. Correct. The prosecutor's office took 2 weeks to review everything. They approved the agreement. The assistant prosecutor told Andrew it was a solid case. Andrew sent the package to Mom's divorce attorney with a 72-hour deadline. Sign or the charges get filed. Lucas called me that night. I didn't answer, but he left a voicemail, voice shaking. Elias, come on, man. You're going too far. You really gonna send me to prison? I'm your brother. Yeah, I messed up. But this is insane. Just call me back. Please. I saved the voicemail and sent it to Andrew. Evidence of contact attempt. Mom tried too, through Dad. Called him crying. Dad shut her down. Lucas is not a kid. And you're 49, Diane. You knew exactly what you were doing. Sign the agreement or face charges. Those are your options. The deadline came and went. No signature. Andrew filed the criminal complaint the next morning. Within hours, Mom's lawyer called, begging for an extension. Your clients had 72 hours, Andrew said flatly. They chose not to sign. The complaint is filed. They'll sign. They'll sign today. I can inform the prosecutor that the victims are willing to accept the agreement instead of prosecution. The prosecutor still has to approve it. Mom and Lucas signed that afternoon. The prosecutor approved it with one modification. Counseling had to be completed within 6 months, not 1 year. Both had to check in monthly with a court-appointed officer. Lucas's trust fund, which Dad controlled, was liquidated to make the first $20,000 payment immediately. The rest would come from Mom's share of the divorce settlement and Lucas's income, which meant Lucas actually had to get a job. It was comprehensive and binding for 5 years minimum. It was perfect. Dad and I celebrated that night at a steakhouse in downtown Chicago. You know they're going to resent you for years, Dad said. I can live with that. How are your classes? Better. Way better. Made Dean's List this semester. I'm proud of you, son. We clinked glasses. But I wasn't done yet. Not quite. Turns out there's standing up for yourself, and then there's salting the earth where they stood. Guess which one I picked. The payment agreement was great, but it was just money. What I wanted was consequences. Real, lasting, social consequences. Derek and I were having lunch between classes when I mentioned this. He got this look on his face. What if we go public? Public? How? Social media. Your brother plastered his lifestyle all over Instagram while spending your money. Turn it around on him. I'd thought about it. It felt nuclear. That's pretty scorched earth. So is stealing 50 grand from your brother while he's collapsing from malnutrition. So is committing identity theft. Dude, they went scorched earth first. You're just returning fire. He had a point. I spent a week writing a detailed post. Kept it factual, showed screenshots of Lucas's purchases next to photos of the legal documents, blurred out sensitive info but showing enough to prove it was real. Explained exactly what had happened. I ended it with, this isn't about revenge. It's about accountability. Actions have consequences. Posted it on my Instagram. Maybe had like 400 followers. Tagged Lucas. Andrew confirmed this type of factual post about public legal proceedings was protected speech. Within an hour, it had 200 likes and dozens of comments. Someone sent it to a Reddit community about family drama, and it blew up there too. Lucas's friends started commenting on his posts. Bro, you stole from your brother? Wait, that car was bought with stolen money? Lucas's Instagram went private, then disappeared entirely. Watching the internet do its thing was better than any revenge I could have planned myself. Mom's Facebook got hit too. Someone found her page and started sharing my post. Her friends from the country club started asking questions. The comments were mostly deleted, but people screenshot them. Mom called Dad, furious. Tell Elias to take down that post. He's humiliating us. Nah, he's telling the truth. The legal documents are public record. If you're humiliated, maybe you shouldn't have committed fraud. She tried to report my post as harassment. Instagram reviewed it and left it up because everything was factual. The social fallout was better than I could have hoped. Lucas's follower count dropped from like 1,200 to 300 before he deleted everything. Mom got dropped from her book club. One of the women actually called Dad to tell him they'd voted they didn't want someone who'd steal from her own child in their group. But the best part? Lucas had to sell his car. The payments were killing him. He'd gotten a job doing sales at a tech startup making maybe $45,000 a year. After taxes and living expenses, he couldn't afford the Challenger's insurance, maintenance, and still make his portion of the payments. He'd put $40,000 plus into that car between the original purchase and mods. Sold it for $28,000. Derek found the listing and we had a good laugh. Lucas trying to make the car look good in some mall parking lot, describing all the premium upgrades that actually made it less valuable to normal buyers. All those modifications he bought with my stolen money? Depreciation central. Meanwhile, I was thriving. With money no longer an issue, I joined a research lab at Northwestern working on trauma surgery techniques. Got myself a better apartment. Actually had a bedroom separate from the living space. Started going out with friends, having a social life. Felt like I could finally breathe. Made friends with one of my professors, Dr. Sarah, who'd noticed my grades improving. She offered me a position in her research team, studying emergency response protocols. Paid position, flexible hours, great for my resume. I accepted immediately. 6 months after the agreement was signed, I was doing better than ever. Dean's List 2 semesters in a row. Published name on a research paper, money and savings, social life, actual sleep schedule. Lucas, according to Dad's reports, was miserable. Working a job he hated. Most of his paycheck going to payments, no car, no social life. Living with roommates in a crappy LA apartment. Actually had to take public transit. The court officer confirmed they were both attending mandatory counseling. 2 years after the collapse that started everything, my life looks nothing like it did before. Third year of med school now, top 10% of my class, working in Dr. Sarah's research lab, published 2 papers with another one submitted, already getting recruitment interest from hospitals for residency positions. Dad's doing great too. Divorce finalized. Mom got way less than she expected after the court factored in her fraud. She's living in a small condo, still working at a real estate office, still making payments. Has like 4 months left on her payment plan. Lucas's situation is less clear because Dad doesn't talk about him much, and I obviously can't contact him. Last I heard, he'd moved back to Phoenix after losing his LA job, was working retail. Still making payments, still in counseling, still under the agreement. He tried to reach out through Dad once, asking if we could put this behind us. I said no through Andrew. The no contact provision stands for the full 3-year term. The post I made is still up on my Instagram. Every few months someone new finds it and shares it. Got like 3,000 likes now. Among our circle, Lucas's name is permanently attached to the guy who stole from his brother. Mom's reputation in Scottsdale never recovered. Sometimes I wonder if I went too far. Then I remember working 3 jobs, eating once a day, collapsing at work. Remember the hospital bill. Remember the panic of falling behind in school. Remember calling my mom begging for help while she sent my money to Lucas for gaming equipment? Nah, they got exactly what they deserved. Derek's still my best friend. We're planning to apply to the same residency programs. He jokes that I should write a book about all this. Dr. Sarah asked me to co-present our research at a conference next month. It's in Phoenix, ironically. Dad's coming to watch. I asked if he'd heard from Mom about it. He said she'd asked if she could attend. What did you tell her? That it was your decision, not mine. I thought about it for about 3 seconds. No, she doesn't get to show up now and pretend she's proud. She lost that right when she stole from me. Dad nodded. That's what I figured. Part of me wonders if I should feel bad about cutting them off so completely. But I don't. Some people are toxic. Some people will never admit they were wrong. Me? I'm the guy who caught them stealing and made sure there were consequences. The guy who's going to be a trauma surgeon and save lives while they're still paying off what they owe. The Phoenix conference was the next month. I flew in 2 days early to prep and spend time with Dad. The presentation went perfect. Standing ovation, multiple hospital reps asking for my contact info. Dr. Sarah beaming. Afterwards, Dad wanted to take me to dinner. I was in the hotel lobby waiting for my Uber when I heard it. Elias? I turned. Lucas was standing there wearing an IKEA uniform polo. Blue and yellow. Name tag and everything. He looked different. The cocky golden child energy was just gone. What are you doing here? I work nearby. Saw you walk in earlier. Been waiting to see if you'd come back out? He took a step closer. Can we talk? Just 5 minutes? I should have walked away. The no-contact order was technically still in effect for another year, but I was curious. You've got 3 minutes, and we're staying right here. Lucas nodded, looking relieved. Look, I know I messed up. I know what I did was wrong. Mom's been in therapy, and she's been telling me I need to take accountability. Lucas, cut the therapy speak nonsense. What do you actually want? He flinched. I wanted to apologize. For real. Not because the court made me. I was a selfish jerk, and I spent your money on stupid stuff while you were struggling. Okay. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Apology noted. I checked my phone. You've got 2 minutes left. That's it? I'm trying to make things right here. You want to make things right? Finish your payments. Keep seeing your therapist. Don't contact me again until the agreement expires. I looked at his uniform. How's IKEA treating you? His jaw tightened. It's a job. Yeah, it is. An honest one, too. First time for everything. Geez, Elias, you really hate me that much? I don't hate you, Lucas. I don't really feel anything about you anymore. You're just the guy who stole from me and faced consequences. I saw my Uber pulling up. But since you wanted to talk, let me ask you something. Was it worth it? Was what worth it? The gaming PC, the car mods, the Vegas trips. All of it. Was it worth losing your trust fund? Your car? Your reputation? Was it worth making minimum wage at IKEA while I'm getting recruited by Johns Hopkins? His face went red. You're really gonna throw that in my face? You asked for 5 minutes. I'm giving you honesty. My phone buzzed. Uber was waiting. Here's the thing you never got. You thought you were special. The golden child. Rules didn't apply. Mom convinced you that you deserved everything, and I was just the boring one who'd figure it out. But you weren't special. You were just enabled. I know that now. Cool. Glad therapy's working. I headed for the door. He called after me. Seriously? That's it? Yup, that's it. Have a good life, brother. Don't try to contact me again. I walked out to the Uber while he stood there in silence. He didn't try to contact me or Dad after that. Some bridges should stay burned. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.